Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bandwagon Hockey Podcast, episode 42. It's been a minute. We have not done an episode since December the 4th. I don't really know what happened. I don't know why, but it just happened. But we're back. We're hoping to get back on the horse, and we decided to bring everyone back, all hands on deck, for our return episode. And what better time to do so than All-Star Sunday when there are 0 hockey games to speak of, coming off of a week with like 5 hockey games that we could have talked about. But we've got trades, we've got All-Star game, we've got Tate McRae, we got All-Star draft, we got lots of things to get to, including a winning streak and a few trades. Ryan, we'll throw it to you first. How are you doing? What's up?
I am doing all right. I'll keep it short and simple here so we can get to our guests. But Halifax is getting quite snowed in right now, so it's interesting.
Oh, really?
It's been like 3 to 4 straight days of like 10 plus centimeters. So I'm gonna have to go dig us out here after this pod. But no, it's been a whirlwind the last couple of days here. I guess I'll throw it to maybe Jacob here first. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I just got back from working at the NHL All-Star game. It was such a privilege to be part of that weekend. It was absolutely amazing experience. I'm sort of just loving how the Canucks are doing right now. It was awesome seeing the Canucks in action during the All-Star break and kind of what went down in management as well.
Pause. What were you doing at the All-Star game?
So I was working at the fanfare most of the weekend at the MTC or Metro Toronto Convention Center. Yeah, I believe that's right. The fanfare was awesome. It was an absolutely amazing success. It was such a big event. You never ran out of stuff to do, and it was amazing seeing like the players come through and just interacting with the players, and as well as doing some of the skills and other competitions that were there as well.
Wait, so who all did you meet?
There's a long list. Basically, I was positioned on the red carpet, so I was able to see all the All-Stars come in.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I was able to see all the All-Stars. I got a nice selfie with Pedersen.
That's nice.
Unfortunately, none of the captains came through, so I wasn't able to see Buble and Tate McRae like I was hoping to. But it is.
You see Bieber? Oh wait, you said no captains.
I did some other like hockey names such as like Bruce Boudreau and Brian Burke was in the range, and as well as like some other sportscast guys like Basil Kamisa and Kevin Weeks and those kind of guys.
That's nice. So cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were a bunch of Canucks there too. They had like friggin' 12. Their whole roster I think was there. Mason, what's up, dude?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. How about them Oilers? What have you been up to?
Oh, I've just been chilling in the falls. I got back from Edmonton about a month ago. I was there for Christmas break. Was able to see one game. It was the Flyers game because they were on their 6-game road trip when I first got there. So I was super fortunate to see the game. Other than that, I've just been chilling in the falls. So there's no snow here. So I'm actually kind of envious of Ryan. I miss the snow. I would like to go snowboarding, but can't really snow on grass. I can't go snowboarding on grass.
Yeah, it's kind of weird here, even for Halifax. Like, typically they don't get a ton of snow, or throughout my 2 years here, anyways. And like this weekend, it's been piling on. So it's been fun to have the snow back. I agree. Yeah. And Neville, finally, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, guys. I'm in Toronto right now, so I was able to dabble a little bit with some of the All-Star festivities. With my hat, I was able to hit Gretzky's basement, spend way too much on my hat. I was at a creator like all-star kind of showcase yesterday. So like the Nashers of the world and the Swaggy P's, the Pavel Barbers, they were all there. Nathan Phillips Square, they kind of were just like playing around. Yeah, just doing like a showcase, and they were competing for like the Creator Cup. So I was able to do that yesterday. That was super fun. Really good atmosphere there. And then on Thursday, I ended up linking up with CCM to do another shoot. So there was one PWHL player, Emma Malte, there. The Empty Netters podcast was there, and then a couple other influencers and hockey personalities. So it was fun. Mason, you spoke like a true Edmontonian there about the snow, and then Jacob, you spoke like a true sport management student on LinkedIn about that. That was such a great experience being a fan. So, yeah, no, we're all doing well here, and yeah, just enjoying the festivities this weekend.
Okay, Ryan, where do we want to start? We've got so much to choose from. Do we want to start with a trade? Do we want to just like what do we want to talk about?
Wherever you want to throw it first, man.
Okay. I mean, it's not like we have to go guy by guy. They're all very informed individuals with the league, so we can just kind of go team to team. But let's start with the Canucks. They made that huge trade, I think it was on Wednesday, picking up Elias Lindholm from the Flames in exchange for a big old bucket of assets. They got a defenseman whose name I will not try to pronounce, a conditional pick, Andrei Kuzmenko, and another guy, Rutu, defenseman, I think. Jacob, did I nail that? Or what?
Joni Jono, but you're right on the ball.
What?
It was Joni Jono, not Rutu, but you're...
Oh, okay. Close. I thought
Close
it was
enough.
Rutu. Close enough. It was a Finnish defenseman.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, Jacob, what's up right now? A year ago today, you were a depressed Canucks fan, and now they're tracking towards a President's Trophy and just made the biggest deadline move, or not even deadline move, but they picked up the biggest expiring pending UFA player you could.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of at a loss for words. I remember doing the podcast, I remember it was a year ago today, we were discussing the Horvat trade and stuff, how Vancouver's going the wrong direction. Now it's really awesome seeing around and are now going in the right direction. I actually have a funny story with the Elias Lindholm trade. I was at, I just finished my orientation, and I was at the Real Sports Bar in Toronto. Neville, I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a amazing sports bar. So I was able to see the trade break live. And yeah, it was, I do think that we did give up a little bit too much. However, that's the package you got to give if you're trying to get a player with the caliber of Elias Lindholm. And I do believe it makes our team better today. And it sucks. I was really big on Kuzmenko. He was a fan favorite. I loved seeing his energy and his locker room presence. But unfortunately, you have to give up something to get something, and that's just kind of on Lindholm.
He hasn't really been doing much this year anyway, though, has he?
He's
having a tough season.
He's having a rough year, but I mean, everyone in Calgary is kind of having a rough year. So hopefully he can fit into Talkett's system. Maybe playing with JT Miller, Elias Pettersson will get him in the right track.
Oh, I meant Kuzmenko.
Oh, Kuzmenko for sure. Yeah,
Kuzmenko was struggling.
He's had some rough patches. He doesn't really fit into the system that Talkett is running, where they really focus on defense and stuff like that, where he's not the best defender, doesn't really back check that much. And yeah, it sucked to see him getting benched, but I honestly, I hope for the best of him in Calgary. I hope he succeeds there, but we'll see how it goes for him.
Neville, you were gonna jump in?
Oh no, I was just gonna say Talkett was kind of burying him, right? On the fourth line.
Oh yeah.
You just didn't really like him ever since he got there.
Essentially, yeah.
Well, it's kind of wild too. I've read a lot about Kuzmenko since the trade happened, and so he scored 39 goals last year. Is that right?
That's
39
correct.
goals last year with a 27% shooting percentage. I didn't realize his shooting percentage was that high. And so he's regressed to, I think, around 8%, which is a bit low, but still not that crazy low. And it's wild how steep of a drop-off his production has suffered from.
Of course.
It's interesting that when he first signed in Vancouver, it was between Vancouver, Edmonton, and LA. And the reason why he chose Vancouver is because he was going to be able to get the best opportunity to play in the top six. And it's funny how a year from that, he's now fourth line player, not even in the system, and gets shipped off as a cap dump, essentially.
Yeah.
Crazy how the value changes in just over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty wicked move for Vancouver, though, to switch out a guy who really wasn't contributing at a $5.5 million cap hit, bring in an Elias Lindholm coming off of 2 years removed from a Selke caliber season. Obviously, he hasn't been at that level, but if you look at the guys that Calgary's lost over the last 2 calendar years, you can kind of understand why. But I don't know. I loved the trade. A lot of people thought it was a bit of an overpay, I think, at first glance, just because he is a rental and you're giving up, I think the third leading scorer in the OHL is a defenseman. Do you know how to pronounce his name, Jacob, or Neville, or Mason?
I want to say it's Bruskowitz, but I don't know if that's right.
Does anyone know
we'll
it?
call him Hunter B.
Hunter B.
Yeah.
Hunter B, the defenseman. Third leading scorer in the OHL as a defenseman. I think it was a third round pick like a year or two ago. I think this might be his D+1. So like good acquisition for Calgary, especially not having to retain. So now they can potentially retain on some other guys. Like who else do they got? They've got Hanifin that they have to deal with, and Tanev. And then they also didn't have to retain on Zadorov, which is huge. So Calgary, a lot of options going into the deadline.
One thing about the move before we kind of go on, like I have no like analysis on this kind of theory, but I feel like whenever a team gets one of the top guys at the deadline, they never end up winning. And I hope like Vancouver does, because I do want, I like Canadian teams. I want Canadian teams to do well. But it feels like every single year on paper, like they might look the best, but they just never get it done. And like that was I think Washington the year before they won the cup. That's the year that I was like, okay, they're gonna win it this year. Like they had a stacked team on paper, and then the next year, I don't know, like they lost some pieces. They had to bring up some younger guys. Like it wasn't as flashy. So that's one thing I want to know. Like because Vancouver also, it's like their first time like with this core. I mean, I guess like during COVID they kind of made a run there. But like first time where like they have a legit core and they know their core and they're going to be running with it throughout the rest of the season. So I'm interested to see if they can if they regress at all, because they're so hot right now. Like, do they get worse because they bring in a guy? I think they're bringing in a guy early enough where he can adjust compared to in a month from now. But I don't know. That's one random theory that I have, because I feel like that it's always the teams that make those get the Noel Acharis. Not that the Leafs did anything last year. But like those kind of trades are usually the teams that go for a big run, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I kind of tying into that thought. One thing I wanted to ask Jacob about from just a fan's perspective is, do you agree with kind of the thinking that they should go all in this year? Because this is obviously what this trade is signaling, that the idea of going all in from where they were last year to where they are now. Do you think it's time for that?
Yeah, I do believe that with kind of the shift in the culture, it's a completely different culture in Vancouver under Tocchet, and I think that they're all really buying into this year, and they're all really putting in more effort than I've seen the Canucks put in effort. A game I want to point out specifically is when they were down 4-1 to Columbus and came back 5-4 in overtime, scoring 4 unanswered goals. That's a game that I think the Canucks would have given up last year, but this year they really kept pushing. And the question marks such as like Pedersen's a pending RFA, and Hronek's a pending UFA, and we're losing guys like Lafferty and Joshua have been amazing for the Canucks this season as well. We're also pending UFAs. So yeah, I think that if Canucks are going to buy in any year, it should be this year, and I think we're fully taking advantage of an opportunity where we can potentially go deep in the playoffs. And obviously acquiring a guy like Elias Lindholm, a guy who has some sort of playoff experience. I believe he went he has some sort of playoff experience, is a really good defensive forward. I believe he's a guy that's going to fit well with Tocchet in the Canucks top 6. And again, it's a trade that I really like. And I feel like that players are also going to see this move from the management and kind of acknowledge that management's going to do everything they can to really try and give the Canucks their best chance at winning this year. And that's something that I like to see as a fan, of course.
One thing
I also just love the way that Vancouver is kind of just moving past the notion of, this is their first year sort of in this contention window, if you want to call it a window, because it literally just opened. And as Jacob, you sort of referenced with their contract situation, and who knows how long it'll be open. So I just love the idea that they're pushing their chips in this 1 year where they're a top 5 team in terms of standings by the end of the year. You can probably book that. And despite what all the metrics say about their PDO and how much scoring luck and save luck and everything, on ice shooting percentage, this and that, everyone's trying to sort of disparage their record. The record is what it is, and if you're gonna push your chips in, just do it. Who cares that their priors aren't great before this year, and that moving forward it might not be as open as this year? Just go for it when you can, because the NHL is so bonkers that you can't like bank on being like, oh, we'll be good next year when we might be able to add even more. Like, no, you might not be.
Yeah.
Actually, one move that I'd like to mention is the Philip Hronek deal last season at the deadline. There were a lot of people were like, why are they making this move if they've already shipped off Horvat for a package? And it was paying dividends at the beginning of the season. His offensive production has definitely taken a dip, but it's one of those trades that, like you mentioned, Mitch, that you make those trades for next season, and it actually paid off for the Canucks. So good job by Patrick to find, or by Alvin to be able to find that deal for Vancouver, and it's working out for that pairing with Hughes.
It unlocks Hughes, right? Like that guy's gonna win the Norris this year. And
Hughes and Hronek have looked absolutely amazing together. It's watch.
Sick.
It'll be interesting to see how much money Hronek gets, but also like underrated, massive part of the deal with the Lindholm trade too is that they, assuming they don't keep Lindholm, they drop $5.5 million from Kuzmenko for next year. Like it's such a like a win-win-win trade.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but isn't is Tyler Myers' contract up soon? Is it next year?
Is up after this year, and I'm super.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
$6 million, another $11.5 million to play with to sign a guy like Lindholm long term and
Pedersen
long term.
I don't know what the number is yet. That's the scary thing. If he back 100 points and leads his team to like a top 5 team in the standings, and you saw what Nylander just got, who knows what that number is going to be.
I'm interested to see if Pedersen goes the Matthews route and takes another like 3 or 4 year deal so that he can hit free agency again when he's 29.
Who knows? We'll see.
Who knows? Who knows? Like, whatever. Let's not talk about it. They have 71 points in 49 games. Who cares? All right, let's move on to a team that doesn't have 71 points in 49 games, but is on a 16-game win streak. Mason, how are you feeling, man? Like, how? Okay, wait. How? Where was your brain at in November?
So I remember I was at work and everyone was surrounding me. Everyone stopped working and we're watching the Sharks-Oilers game, and everyone had put an office ride bet on the Sharks to win, and I didn't ride. Everyone won. I was devastated, but I was still on the Oilers can turn it around. They'll make the playoffs. Though I did say if the Oilers were not in a playoff spot by I think the All-Star break, that I would bandwagon another team. Because I didn't see it happening. I was, down. I think a lot of Oilers fans were down. We were optimistic though, because this team was playing really well down the stretch leading into the playoffs last season. Had a strong first round. Unfortunately ran into a really tough team in Vegas. But we didn't make any big changes in the off season. So why is this team failing as much as they did? I was a big Woodcroft guy, and then once he got canned, I was kind of devastated in bringing in a coach that wasn't like Nabla, who wasn't really experienced in the NHL. Just a few 8-game stint he had in New York when Gerard Gallant got hit with COVID, but he did really well in that 8-game stint. And to now, it's crazy that we're on the brink of a record-breaking win streak. It's clearly not.
Oh, right. Record 17, right? They're at 16?
The record is tying a record 17, and that's Vegas, and that's on Tuesday. And then in order to beat the record, we have the Ducks, and I believe that's Friday.
Oh wow. That's going to be such a fun game against Vegas. Is that on that's on Tuesday, you said?
Yeah, Tuesday. I think it's the nightcap.
Oh wow, that's exciting. It's so insane, the turnaround. Like have we ever seen anything like that? At least in like modern NHL history? Like that doesn't happen.
I think the one team that comes to mind is St. Louis in 2018.
Yeah.
Right.
They were last place, and Binnington put the Blues on their back, brought them to the Stanley Cup, and the whole team just kind of rallied around it. So
also,
when Berube was the coach, and I don't remember who got fired. I don't think it was Hitchcock, but Berube came in as the interim and ended up maintaining a job.
Yeah. Was it Mike Yeo? Was that the last guy there?
Oh, Mike Yeo.
No idea.
Somewhere it was either St. Louis or Minnesota, but
yeah, I don't know why I remember that name, but that was the first guy that came to mind.
Mikey
I
was
think-
all over the Central Division, so
I think this Edmonton run is honestly a little bit more impressive than the St. Louis one. Obviously, St. Louis went and won the Cup, but if you go look at the actual standings as of January whatever in that 2019 year, like St. Louis had so many games in hand, and I think they were like one game below Bettman 500. Like it wasn't like this crazy last place team. The standings were also a lot more compressed that season. Like when you look at last place now versus like what was Edmonton like 2-10-2?
I think they were, when Woodcroft got fired, they were 5, I want to say 5-12 or 5-13-1.
Oh
which
my
is
god,
ridiculous.
that's so
Wow.
crazy. That's
Like,
so insane.
Perennial Stanley Cup contender for the last 3 years since 5-12-1 to start the year. But,
That was wild.
You know, over
Also-
the last 2 months, the big thing that the Oilers struggled with in those early down days was goaltending, and sending down Jack Campbell was a big punch to the gut. Considering we're paying him an arm and a leg to be a goalie. Stuart Skinner couldn't figure it out. But now Stuart Skinner, he's on the brink of a record-setting win streak as well. So he's already broken the franchise record for most consecutive wins as an Oilers goaltender. He's 2 wins away. He's at 12 right now. He's 2 wins away from being tying the all-time NHL record for most consecutive wins for a goalie. So that's super important for the Oilers turnaround to have that, steady goaltending. And even Calvin Pickard, he comes in. Oilers fans didn't have much faith in him. I didn't have much faith in him, but he's been playing really well. I think he recorded a shutout or 2, even in his time in this win streak, which has really helped Skinner, and it's really eased off management's pressure to find a backup or a 1B option to help out Skinner. So there's been a lot of factors with this Oilers win streak, but one of the biggest ones is definitely Skinner being the hottest goalies in the last 2 months.
Stuart Skinner hasn't recorded a save percentage lower than 9-12 in this win streak.
Insane.
Like
Insane.
that's
Like,
bonkers.
Beginning of this, it's really
Pretty
frustrating
good.
because at the beginning of the season he was absolutely terrible, brutal. Like just following in Jack Campbell's footsteps. Jack Campbell couldn't stop a beach ball, and that's being generous. It was brutal to just watch Stuart Skinner's play. Just the whole team's play was just so deflated. But two guys that really taken a big jump in production was Fogle and McLeod in this win streak. They actually I think Fogle leads the team in even strength points within the win streak, and I think McLeod's third on the team, 3rd or 4th. That's huge help for McDavid and Draisaitl to not have to carry the load management of the goal scoring. And the Oilers are finding a way to win close games. Like over the last decade, it seems like Oilers have been notorious for losing 1-goal games. Doesn't matter if they're a poor team or not, and they're finding a way to win games. Like I remember they were the Detroit game in this win streak. I think they were down by 2. They maintained their composure, were able to come back and then win it in overtime. And a team like that last year, no chance. You're down by 2 with 10 minutes left, no chance. But this Oilers team is a lot more composed. They're a lot more experienced. They're able to come in and win close games, which is super important.
Has Perry played yet?
Perry has played. He
did?
He played, I think, just 1 game. I
Okay.
believe. He came in. I think they purposely did not want him to play against Chicago, so they kept pushing back his start date. So then he played against Nashville.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
He had a couple shots, a couple hits. Maybe they're just easing him into it because he hadn't played in like 3 months. But he looked okay.
Side note, I think they just tied the 16-17 Columbus Blue Jackets. Does anybody remember that win streak?
I know some.
I don't.
Sam
I
Gagner.
don't.
I remembered it was a Torch system. Torch is just running the Blue Jackets like absolutely brand new.
That was
Bobrovsky was playing like Bobrovsky. Yeah, they still had some
Yeah.
decent pieces.
Sam Gagner was on that team too, so he's the only player in NHL to be on 2 different 14-game plus win streaks, which is
Man, that guy is always around. Like he's
Always
always getting
around.
like a 1-year deal. Like I swear 5 years ago I was like, this guy's probably out of the league, and he just keeps getting like a 1-year deal.
He's
He
a
was
lot.
like he was like sneakily like an Oilers franchise guy like 15 years ago, wasn't he? Like he was part of that like Taylor Hall, Jordan Eberle core.
Like if I never heard his name this year, I would have guessed he retired like 5 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Sam Gagner is tied for the Oilers franchise record for most points in a single game with Gretzky.
Yeah.
Which is
Wow.
wild.
He's probably got one of the nicest shootout moves. Probably not the best, but like
Oh, yeah.
one of the nicest shootout moves that he would do consistently. That like backhand toe drag to the forehand. Oh, that's probably one of the like most satisfying shootout moves you'll ever see.
All right, moving to the other end of the standings spectrum, down in the basement with us Sens boys, Neville. That was kind of mean.
Yeah, I mean, I chirped.
Yeah,
you guys
we're
before.
still below him. We can't
Yeah.
be making these
Well, I said
intros like
out on
that.
the bottom end of the spectrum with us. Like I was grouping him in with us.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody could be above us right now, but anyways.
Neville, how does it feel? How does it feel that your favorite team is managed by Kent Hughes rather than Marc Bergevin now?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's really nice. It's a relief. It feels really good to have someone that's like not so cheap and not so like worried about his moves. Although Ken Hughes hasn't like made a huge splash or anything yet. Like he's been very efficient. And I think people do like give Marc Bergevin a lot of like bad, they don't think he did a great job. Although I think he did. Like he was just so cheap in the way he did it. Like he would get Alexander Semin to sign like a minimum, contract for 1 year, or he would get like kind of like the Radulov deal where like that was really good value for that year. So it feels really good. Obviously that Monahan deal was probably the best deal that we could have got for him. Although, like, I feel like Winnipeg's going to make this big run, and it'll be like a 32nd overall pick. But either way, yeah, it's a good feeling, Mitch.
Like I've seen just people kind of like poking fun at the Bergevin era and saying that like Monahan would have been traded for a 30-year-old. He would have been traded in a hockey trade. Like it would have been for like a 30-year-old defenseman and a 4th-round pick or some shit to like help with Montreal's like progression into next year. And it's just it's cool seeing them actually like make moves geared towards the future, which I don't think they did for a really long time.
Yeah, no, there would usually be like a string of like savvy moves that Bergevin would make, and I think like it wasn't always bad, but then he would throw in one that would like ruin the string. Like then it would just level out. So like all those good trades, they kind of just were leveled out by like one bad one. And like just like he was cheap, right? Like I think he got like Dwight King and like a couple other guys when like they had this great playoff run, and it was just like, so like I don't think, and it's hard to say like because they're in completely different situations. Marc Bergevin and Ken Hughes. Marc Bergevin had Carey Price and like a winning record both seasons, right. But like also like Ken Hughes hasn't experienced that yet. Like what does happen when Montreal is fighting for a playoff spot? So we'll see what he's like. I just hope he's not like that, because I think he's made some moves that they're calculated risks, like Kirby Dach. I mean that was a really good trade as well. Ended up being about Romanov for Kirby Dach. So it's going to take some time to feel like secure with Ken Hughes, although him gearing for the future. And actually, I think he just has a plan. Like Marc Bergevin just was scrappy and would get the best deals he could. But I think Ken Hughes has a little bit more of like a long-term plan, which is nice. And then, yeah, Monahan to Winnipeg, I think that'll be a really good fit. Although I'm sad to see him go because he was such a good player, and it's actually nice to see like some goals getting in there. And now Nick Suzuki is just going to be like his plus minus is probably going to go way, way down. Not that that's a super relevant stat, but either way, it's nice. And I think there are still some other trade chips. Like you look to the goalie situation first. Montembeau's been awesome. He just signed an extension, so he's not going anywhere. It's basically between Jake Allen and Caden Primo. And Primo, I think, has looked pretty good, and he has the youth, right? So I don't really want to trade him unless it's for something really good. Like Ken Hughes has kind of showed, like he'll trade some young guys for, youth back. But, I think Jake Allen's probably that guy. And he hasn't played, like he's been kind of on and off. Like he's had some good games, but like his stats probably aren't looking like super nice. But like he's an established goalie. He's he's really good when he's on. And no doubt there are some teams out there that need some goaltending. So there are a bunch of forwards too. Like, I mean, Armia was sent down earlier this year, but he has like 8 goals since he came back up. So if you need some goals, like he's contending for the Cy Young Award this year. I think he has like 8 goals and 1 assist. I'm pretty sure. Last time I checked. So he would be something like a trade chip. Definitely, you need to retain 50%. Maybe make it like a 3-team trade because his salary isn't great. And then I think everyone would want like Michael Pezzetta. He's an awesome player, but the Pez dispenser, I don't want to see him go either. So I think there'll be some trades, but I think there'll be sensible trades, unlike Bergevin, where it really was a hockey trade for an older guy who we thought would amp up the intensity or something, right? Like something very old school that he would have in mind. But it's been good so far.
Yeah, and focus more on that kind of long-term aspect. I'm curious on your thoughts on 2 people in particular. One being Slavkovsky, and 2 being Martin St. Louis. Now that the honeymoon phase, to say, has kind of worn off with him, how have you felt about Martin St. Louis' kind of leadership over this younger core? And do you think he's kind of that guy long term? And kind of coupled into that question is, how have you liked how he's handled, or how do you see how he's handled Slavkovsky's development?
I think first, like, to focus on St. Louis, I think he's done just about as much as you can with this team. I don't think they're like, and honestly, I think they're even better than expectations. Like at points, like during the season, like they've been maybe 3 or 4 back at the wild card spot, which I think everyone was thought they were going to be dead last, which is fair. Their team on paper isn't looking like super flashy. And so I think he's done a good job. I honestly don't know if he's a long-term play, and I don't think he does either. He's mentioned at points this year that he doesn't know if his time, like when his time is going to be finished. Like he doesn't particularly know, but he knows he's focusing on now, and he's focusing on being a good coach right now. And you've seen the classic clip with Cole Caulfield about how he like faked the shot and then kind of went back into the slot and shot it, and how he taught that in practice, and then you saw it in a game. I think there are a lot of those moments, a lot more of those moments compared to just that one clip. So I think with Slavkovsky, although, a very different, player in stature and structure, I think if he continuously tries to inspire him and he continuously, like, I think St. Louis, being French Canadian, it's also, he's trying to teach Yura like how to be a Montreal Canadian, although he never was one. I think he instinctively has some of that, those feelings of how to be a Montreal Canadian in a city or in a province like Quebec. So, I think like this year, especially the past month, maybe month and a half, you've seen Slavkovsky put up a couple more points, just make smarter plays. I mean, Montreal Canadian fans also zone in on him a lot, and if he makes like one good play, you'll see a clip of it. And if there's only one good play in that game by him, then you're gonna see it, right? They're like, oh, he's progressing, right? But I think he's gonna be a good player. It's just a matter of time. Like you've seen some players kind of take their time and they're not going to be amazing at first. I kind of see him maybe like as a Svechnikov kind of guy, maybe with a little bit more power and less goals. But either way, I'm happy with it. I don't think it's anything to worry about. And then I think next year you'll really start to see some points and progression if he has some players to play with, right? Obviously he has
Right.
Cole and Nick, but it's going to take a little bit more than that. Like losing Monahan is going to be is tough for him as well if he's shifted around the lineup, but we'll see.
Okay, I have a roundtable question for everyone. I have a roundtable question, and I thought of it as Neville went on his little monologue. Okay, Neville kind of touched on how, like, whatever, he thinks Slavkovsky is going to be a good player, like Suzuki's a good player, Coffey, whatever. I think the biggest challenge in the NHL is establishing a core, right? And a lot of teams kind of establish that core and then build their team outwards. Like, look no further than Vancouver and Edmonton, right? They established these nuclear cores, but just couldn't surround them with the right pieces to really take that next step. And Ryan, I want to loop you into this question too, as our native Sens fan. How do you guys feel about, I guess I'm more asking Jacob and Mason to give their thoughts on Montreal, given how they have experienced their teams. But like with Edmonton, you had McDavid, Draisaitl, like just whatever, nuclear pieces. With Vancouver, you have Hughes, Pedersen, Miller, Besser, etc. But with Montreal, you've got Suzuki, Caulfield, like Caden Gooley, like you've got Lane Cutson coming, Uri Slavkovsky. But it seems like the team is way better than they should be because that team is built around that nucleus that may not necessarily be as high end. How do you guys feel about like the process in terms of establishing a core and then building the team out, and how your team has done so thus far? Did that question make any sense?
No, it made sense. I think like what I think Alvin's doing. One thing that I always like to mention that the Monahan trade is a huge step for, I guess, what Montreal fans are not used to, which is asset management. Being able to get 2 first-round picks essentially for Sean Monahan is crazy.
Yeah.
And time
Unreal.
with Sean Monahan too to help develop Caulfield, Slavkovsky, and some of the other younger guys. One of the biggest frustrations as an Oilers fan in like the McDavid era was not being able to have players in and around their stars. Like it's really nice having Hyman, Bouchard, Nurse, and Evander Kane, Bouchard, Skinner, all these players that really weren't there and weren't available. Like, remember in 2018 when Bob Nicholson made the infamous quote, well, if Toby Reeder scored 12, 15 goals, we'll be in the playoffs. Well, like, why are you relying on a fourth line guy to score 12, 15 goals to make the playoffs? Like, that's a
crazy quote.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I was like look at Connor Brown right now. Connor Brown hasn't scored a goal yet, and that's going to be a brutal cap punch again for the Oilers next season. But he's played well defensively. Regardless, like Montreal, what they're doing right now, they're making calculated moves, as Neville mentioned. I think the Doc and New Hook moves. Unfortunately, they're injured, so you can't really see what they're really going to be doing. But they're calculated. Like they're reminding me of like the Colorado and like the Sakic and the Yzerman moves with the Lightning, like making those savvy, like the Devin Taves trade. 2 second-round picks for Devin Taves, and Devin Taves is a top 10 defenseman in the league now with Colorado. Something that Montreal fans could look forward to, and making sure that you have a core around your 2 players is important, but kind of building your core within those 2 players is a lot more important than just surrounding them with good players that you might think work. Like, I'll make an example of when they signed Mike Hoffman to a 3x4.5 with whatever team. I think, Neville, was that before or after their cup run that they signed Hoffman?
I believe it was after.
After, right? So they had a really strong cup run. They were like a couple games short. But then they go ahead and sign Hoffman, who is a serviceable middle 6 forward, but isn't necessarily a player that a lot of teams were high on. I wasn't really high on him. And now I don't even know where Hoffman is now. Is he? Oh, he's in San Jose. Is he?
Yeah, San Jose.
He's in San Jose, so he's out in California enjoying his time.
He's collecting a paycheck.
He was looped in on that EK trade, right?
No, separate.
Don't know.
Was it separate?
Separate trade, yeah.
Because I know Montreal was part of that trade with San Jose and Pittsburgh.
I believe so. Yeah, I think it was a separate trade. But regardless, like I think with what Montreal is doing, like they're building a more deep core, and they don't have that star player. But what Montreal fans can look forward to, and a couple of players I'd like to mention is Nathan McKinnon and Alexis Lafreniere. Like McKinnon didn't jump into the league as a first overall pick and be the player that he is now. He took 3 or 4 years to really get to where he was. Same with Lafreniere and the Rangers. Like, and you have to think about COVID too. It hurt a lot of these players' development years, especially in the juniors. So the 2021, 2022, 2023 drafts are all going to be affected by the COVID year, and because those the 15 to 18 years are really big for development. And those years were stripped away because of COVID for a lot of these young players. So giving them the benefit of the doubt and making sure that they develop well, I think Montreal fans can look forward to with Slafkovsky. So making sure that core is, I think they're trending in the right direction. I don't think they should rush anything. And same with Vancouver too. Like Vancouver, I didn't see being as good as they are this year. So good for them. But like I said last year, when Albin made that trade for Philip Hronek, it really helped with the future, and they were looking forward towards building a better defensive core rather than having Quinn Hughes and Tyler Myers and who else, right? So
yeah, kind of what Vancouver's been doing is they did a big shift from the Jim Benning era to the Patrick Allvin era. That's a completely different direction. Of course, like.
Sorry, I'm so looking forward to the Ken Holland era being over. I'm thankful for Ekholm, but I want it to be over.
Yeah, of course. No, but Jim Benning was kind of just making whatever moves he thought made sense, but not a lot of them did make sense, and he didn't justify moves later on. A lot of players just got signed for no reason. We kind of jumped the gun, trying to contend when we weren't quite ready yet, like trading the pick that led to being Dylan Gunther for Oliver Ekman-Larsson Garland, just kind of a boneheaded move. And then, Allvin kind of did the smart. He had the patience. He saw the vision. Again, he made the Hronek trade, like Mason said. Canucks really built around their core instead of just trying to add players here and there. They made some good defensive additions, such as Ian Cole, Carson Soucy, who have made amazing impacts so far in Vancouver, even though Soucy's kind of injured at the moment. I like bringing in Zadorov. We really haven't had that grit that some teams have, and now a guy like Zadorov, who I've seen, has just been laying the body, laying hits here and there. And then also I kind of like what the Canucks have been doing with their core, as well as not just focusing on their top six, but they've really focused on their bottom six, which is something that they haven't done in past years, where they've shifted more towards their depth, and they've acquired players such as Sam Lafferty for a 5th round pick, and Dakota Joshua's taken a big step. Teddy Bluger's looked amazing. Pius Suter, names like that have really paid more attention and given more effort on the back end, and you can see just the results that happen where Canucks kind of work out a more defensive system in front of a goalie like Thatcher Demko. It's just a recipe for success, in my opinion. I'm so glad that Talkin and Allvin are kind of on the same page and working together to make this team better. And the core itself is also doing amazing right now. Like the Lotto line with Pedersen, Miller, Besser it's looked unstoppable. And the people on Twitter, on Canucks Twitter, I've seen them calling it Lotto Max whenever Hughes and Hronek are out there, because the offense been the whole time.
Yeah, and then with Ottawa, it was interesting with Pierre Dorion because he did assemble like this really nice core, but then he did such a 180 from like tearing it down and then filling up the rest of the roster with whoever, like the most replacement level players you could find. And then he made like a 180 switch to going out and getting your Chykrins, going out and getting your Talbots, going out and getting your Giroux. So there was no transition time. Like, sure, the players developed a little bit in those years, but they didn't really have the tools necessary to kind of take that next step. Like, they didn't have any of that leadership in the room, what I think Montreal is doing well is I think I love the depth of their core. Like everyone says, they don't have that top player yet, and maybe that player will emerge over the next couple of years. Like they still have a ton of draft picks.
That's true.
But yeah, they have a really nice core that's maybe not focused, but that has two-way abilities too. Like you see Ottawa also right now is struggling to like reteach their offensive players a more defensive side of the game. So I think what Montreal is doing well is they're accumulating a ton of young players who know how to play the game a right way and keeping kind of those older players around for the extra year or two, like Monahan, to kind of teach the way as well.
As a Habs fan, like I do worry about that a little though. Like who is going to be the guy? Like Nick Suzuki, he's had like Bergeron comparisons, but like who's going to be the Pasternak beside? I mean, this was only for a couple seasons, but like who's going to be the Pasternak, right? Is that going to be Cole Caulfield? Like I see Cole Caulfield. Mm-hmm. Obviously, DeBrincat is a good comparison, I think, to what he will be, but DeBrincat's he might not carry a team. Though.
Not the guy,
right? Like so, it does worry me a little bit. It's like Slavkovsky, like is he going to be the guy? Like I don't know. That is worrying me. And then like Lane Hudson, like it's hard to get a grasp on how good he's going to be because people compare him to like Cale Makar. It's like, okay, but is he Cale Makar or is he just like he has similar head fakes and skills? Like it's hard to bridge that gap. There are good prospects, but as a Habs fan, it's a little scary sometimes. Like I don't know what to expect.
I think as an outsider's perspective, like last season the Oilers had 4 players 80 plus points, but then the next highest player that played a full season was at 20. Like that's great that we had 4 players, like and then in years prior it's just been 2 players, right? So last year we took a step. This season we're on track to have, I think, 5 or 6 players, not named McDavid or Draisaitl, have 50 or more points on the forward end, which is incredible. So as a Habs fan, if you have 5 or 6 guys in and around the 55 to 70 points range throughout the regular season, that's 4 or 5 guys you can rely on throughout the regular season, so that there doesn't necessarily have to be the guy. Like I'm going to use the Blues again. They didn't have the guy. Like Ryan O'Reilly had a massive playoff run, Conn Smythe winner, but he was a Selke Trophy winner. He wasn't a Hart winner. He wasn't a goal scorer. He was a two-way guy. And like if you could have, like 12 forwards, or maybe not 12, you can have 9 forwards, 40 plus more points in a year. Your team is deep. You can play against the Oilers, who have struggled to score secondary historically. And all your top guys need to do is match up against McDavid and Draisaitl's line, and then you're playing against your third line is going to outplay Edmonton's third line 9 times out of 10. Yeah. So as an outside perspective, you might not need the guy, but if you have 5 or 6 several other guys, you might not be in as bad of a position. Sure, it's super helpful to have McDavid, Draisaitl as your 1-2, but do I think that Kirby Dach and Nick Suzuki could be a serviceable 1-2 and have 55, 70 point seasons? Yes, I do believe that. And I think that's what right now Habs fans should look into rather than relying on Slavkovsky to turn into this Pasternak style player. It is, it is a bit of a stretch, but you never know, right? He is a first overall pick, and he does have, lots of years to develop into something like that. But having 5 or 6 guys within that 55, 70 point range is a lot more valuable than 4 guys with 80 plus points, and the rest of your forwards don't even have 20.
The guy may still even be on the way too, right? Like I think eventually Slavkovsky, I don't know if Slavkovsky gets there, but I think Slavkovsky is going to be like awesome one day. But like they have 4 first round picks in the next 2 years. Given how this league works, like Ryan and I both know, like there's a chance Montreal hasn't even bottomed out yet. Like, obviously, that's not what you want to hear, but there's a chance that next year just everything goes poor. Like, if Nick Suzuki like gets injured next year, like that team's gonna finish bottom 3, and then all of a sudden, if you win a lottery, you're right back in it with a sick ass core the next year. So like that's kind of the way it goes. So there's also a huge possibility that the guy's not even in the organization yet.
Yeah.
I guess pipe dream for Habs fans would be Celebrini, right, Neville?
Yeah.
Oh,
They could even win the lottery this year. Like they're gonna have.
It's true. Yeah.
They're gonna
He's
have top
sick,
7 lottery
he's
odds
sick.
probably. Yeah.
He's
yeah.
good, man.
Like Montreal's gonna have.
During World Juniors, like I was like, I want this guy on my team. Like he is gross. And like he's a little gritty too. Like it's not just like pure skill. Like he's like fast. He's kind of like a Pasternak. Like got a little bit of an edge, and like kind of has good like little stick lifts and stuff like that. He would be sick. You guys are getting me way too excited right now. But no, it would be nice. And yeah, a good pick should be coming this year. But yeah, well, it might not be Suzuki, might not be Caulfield, and might not be Slavkovsky. We'll see.
Ryan, do you have anything else?
I guess one quick question to kind of round this out. Everybody can give an answer. What is the one thing going into trade deadline that you want to see from your team? And I will start with Jacob, which is maybe a little bit hard because they've already made their big move. But if they need to do something else, what do you want to see from them?
I would want to see them maybe get another kind of top 4 defenseman. I mean, like a Chris Tanev is someone who's been on my wish list for a while. I mean, like there's guys. Apparently, Quinn Hughes is kind of really pitching to management to bring a guy like Chris Tanev back. I mean, we have to see kind of how Elias Lindholm fits in. But I wouldn't mind like another forward as well on top of Elias Lindholm, even though we've got like our stud. Maybe it's another guy just throw in the middle 6, kind of see how he fares out. Just another guy to help out contributions and stuff like that. Other than that, I think Canucks are a well-rounded team, and we're hopefully sailing for.
Mason,
nice.
This is an interesting question because they're in a good spot. Like obviously, I'm super high on them right now. They're on a 16-game win streak. What can stop them, right? However, like going into the playoffs, some of the things that they've struggled with is scoring. Outside of McDavid, Draisaitl, goaltending, I'm worried about because Skinner is doing a lot, and I do not trust Picard late down the stretch to hold off some games. And again, D-men are always tough. So a couple of guys that I've written down, Sean Walker out of Philadelphia is a nice right-handed bottom 4 D-man that could fit in, replace Desharnais, make Desharnais the 7th defenseman, and I have a lot stronger bottom 6 than what they are, a lot stronger top 6 than what they have right now. They need scoring. A couple guys that they've looked into is Henrique and Eberle. I think those are more realistic options. I think the big pipe dream is Gensel. And I think, there was an interesting quote from Draisaitl a couple weeks ago about his incoming contract extension negotiations coming in next season. Is that McDavid's going to do his thing, I'm going to do mine, and it doesn't really scream that he's committed to staying in Edmonton long term. So one thing that could persuade him to really stay here, if the Oilers don't win the Cup this year, is a guy like Gensel. Last year, Holland made a big splash and got Ekholm and traded the farm for him. But Ekholm and Bouchard has turned into a top 5 pairing in the league, which is super helpful for the Oilers. We haven't had someone like that in forever. So a guy like Gensel would be expensive, but the Oilers have the assets. Will they have assets 3 to 4 years from now? Probably not. But this is a team that you need to convince McDavid and Draisaitl that you're committed very, very long term. You've got guys locked up like Hyman, Nurse, Nuge, long term. They're there forever. They want to get McDavid and Draisaitl on similar contracts there forever. And getting a guy like Gensel kind of solidifies that last piece that we could be a perennial Cup contender. And even if Gensel's a rental, but we win the Cup, 100% worth it. So those are the guys that are kind of on the wish list for the Oilers. Actually, I'll say one more thing. And Connor Brown to score 1 goal. That'd be great.
You can take Jake Allen for Jack Campbell, a first and a third, and then we'll turn Jack Campbell back into the goalie he was, and then trade him for another first.
Hey, you know what? That's not a bad deal. Jack Campbell has played decent in Bakersfield after.
Yeah, wasn't he started the night last night?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's had like a .925 save percentage over his last 8 starts in Bakersfield.
Right.
So he's turning into a backup goaltender. I'm not holding my hopes. If he ever steps foot in Edmonton again, not for signing his buyout deal, I will be furious. He is done.
All right. And Neville, I know you kind of mentioned a few names that could be also on their way out. I guess one other aspect I would like to loop in with you is what would you like to see them kind of target in the draft this year? Like, do you think they need another impact forward? Do you think another defensive prospect would be the way to go? One, who do you see else going out the door? And two, what do you think should be a priority for their draft pick this year?
Yeah, I'd say first for the draft pick, probably another forward. Whatever, like center, wing, I'm not really worried about that. Just get another guy in there. I think they have a bunch of deep prospects in there. They got like Justin Barron. I don't know how well his defensive game is really progressing. He's kind of up and down with Laval, but he scores goals. They have Lane Hudson, they have Caden Gooley, they have Jordan Harris. I don't think he'll be like a top 3 or 4. I think he's like a top 5 or 6 on a good team. So I'm not really worried about the D-men, but another forward for sure. Celebrini, I'm very happy to have him start making some recruitment posts or bribe the NHL to fix the draft or something. But
slacking for Macklin.
Oh yeah, slacking for Macklin, baby.
Doing those draft lottery simulators.
Yeah. Oh, I do those once in a while, and but yeah, I get way too excited. But for the trade deadline, I'd say just like try to be just smart. Like I don't do anything crazy. I think another defenseman would be nice. Like if I feel like Matheson is like the only guy that is really super productive, and he's been really good. I don't think they'll trade him. But if you can get maybe like another guy, just an older guy to teach some of the younger guys, even if that means like giving up one of the prospects, then I think that's okay. Just to like teach, because I think Gooley could be that guy. Hudson could be that guy. Barron could be one of the guys. So I think if you get another older defenseman to teach around there, then I think that would be nice. And I think it's, if Hughes has one of those defensemen a little bit lower on his ranking system, and he feels like it's okay, and the learning and the teaching that defenseman coming in will really benefit, Gooley and Hudson, then I think it would be nice. But who that defenseman is, I have no idea. I haven't done that research, but yeah.
I got a question for you.
Who?
So
would it maybe be a guy like Dave Reinbacher, a guy you?
Oh, I forgot about him.
Sorry, yeah. Honestly, I didn't recognize. I didn't even bring his name up, but because I feel like he is so far in the future. But
feels like a bit of a project.
Yeah, definitely a project. Mason, what were you gonna say?
What about a guy like Tyson Barrie? I know Nashville is dangling him around. He wants to be traded. I don't think he wants to go to a non-contending team, but that's a guy. He's an older guy. He can help on the offensive end. Don't trust him to kind of help you out defensively, but in terms of jumping in on the rush and learning how to play offensively, Tyson Barrie is your defenseman. And he even takes off some of the pressure of Mike Matheson having to be your number one power play guy. Because you look at what Tyson Barrie did with Edmonton, turned that power play into a lethal power play, or helped at least. So that's a guy that could be on the radar. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I like that because Savard is kind of that like gritty defenseman, like the right-handed guy in the core. Then you have Matheson, then you have a little bit of balance. And like he could be paired up with Gooley, for example. Like he could kind of teach Gooley a little bit about the offensive side. because he's not lighting it up or anything, Gooley. I've heard he's a good guy off the ice too. He loosens up the room, so that's the type of guy, right? Like the professional. He's been around for a while. I don't know if he would love to go to a non-contending team like Montreal, but it's a nice city, so.
I think if Tyson Barrie were to go to some place like Montreal and be able to showcase his skills, I think he'd improve his trade value a lot more, because I think he's got one more year left after this season.
Yeah.
So it helped. And that's another rental piece that Montreal could use as well. So he's the kind of guy that needs to be on the first power play. He's not getting that in Nashville, so you put him on a team with no real power play quarterback. Sure, Matheson has done okay. I don't think he's done well. And maybe that helps the production of guys like Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slafkovsky on the power play.
Yeah. No, I like it. Matheson, it's a lot for him right now, and he I feel like he's even been snake bitten a little bit. I feel like every game he's hitting a post as well. So like having a guy like Barrie just to like maybe calm him down a little bit. And like take some pressure off, I'd be happy with that. But that's the type of guy that I'm thinking.
Matheson's playing 25 minutes a night. That's crazy. All right. Does anyone have anything else before we wrap? We're just over an hour here. This has been great. I really appreciate you guys coming on. Ryan, if you don't have anything else, if anyone else has any thoughts, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Mitch and Ryan, who are your like cup picks? Like, I mean, Snowy and Mason, like we already know their cup picks, but like who do you guys have your eye on? Like if you're giving up a little bit on the Sen season.
Oh yeah.
I think that was November, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you would think they were gonna go on the St. Louis run or
Our
something.
Stanley Cup now is catching the hat.
Man, I get excited to see like 2 minutes of defensive structure right now. I'm so gone, dude. Like, oh my god.
Oh yeah. But give me like a couple, maybe like a top team, and then like
I had Dallas preseason. I'm just gonna stick with them. I like their division's ridiculous. Like it's gonna be really tough for them to get out of that division because they're probably gonna be the 3 seed. And they're gonna be matched up with either Colorado or Winnipeg. But I love Ottinger, and I don't know. I had Dallas preseason. I'm not gonna move off it.
Nice.
I don't know. It's hard to bet against Edmonton, man.
As a Pacific team, I think Jacob could probably like agree with me. We're scared of Dallas. Dallas has got a really deep forward. I would say they've got the deepest forward core.
They're very well rounded.
They're so deep, dude. Like their third line is just sick. Like their top 9 is absurd. Thomas Harley, man. Oh my god, who said that?
Wyatt Johnston's now on that first line instead of Joey Paz. Like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Someone in our fantasy league team has him, and I was like, "Why is
dude?" I went to pick him up like week.
Who was it?
I went to pick him up.
Well,
man,
like right wing eligibility. That's nice.
Thomas Harley has right wing eligibility.
No. Oh, I have Harley too. I was talking about Wyatt Johnston.
He got right wing eligibility.
He did.
Oh, I had him at the start of the year when he was just center and he just wasn't producing.
He's underrated.
He's so good.
Man,
my mom taught him actually. Like he went to school like in North Toronto. My mom taught him like music, like when he was in like grade 5. Apparently, she would talk about him like how he was so like even at that point he was so calm and super like he seemed like professional. And he was like 10 years old. Like he wasn't like a normal kid. Like he was just so dialed into hockey and like such a good guy. Like he wasn't like super hyperactive like a lot of like athletes are. Just super calm, professional, and he was I say professional, but he's like 10 years old.
Mm-hmm. Mason, remember when you were talking about like depth and if you have a certain amount of guys over 40 points or whatever, it outweighs having 3 over 80? Guess how many players Dallas has on pace for more than 50 points?
9.
10.
Oh, and Two.
10.
Not
Duchesne.
Duchesne. Oh yeah, dude. Like he's leading their team in points.
Oh, man, Duchesne,
He's
too.
third on their team in points. Like it's
And what's scary is like they don't have Robertson and Hintz playing to what they could be.
yeah,
That's scary.
yeah.
Like wait till Robertson flips the switch and finds his offensive.
And Ottinger's having a tough year too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm choosing Dallas. Ryan, who's yours?
Okay.
Yeah, if I had to pick a team other than Dallas, I might just say the Rangers, just because I still like the composition of their team, and I think the East is gonna be
The Rangers?
The Rangers.
Yeah.
Odd
the
choice.
Rangers. Like I don't see a ton of teams in the East right now that I would love to beat them in a series.
I like Florida again.
And like I was probably gonna go Dallas or maybe Colorado too, but if I had to choose somebody from the East, I'd go Rangers right now.
I think one thing that you got to consider is how tough the East is.
Oh
Yeah.
Playoff wise, I think we're going to see another Western Conference champion this year, just because it's easier for them to get to the cup, whether it be Edmonton, Vancouver, Dallas. It doesn't matter. Whoever
Right.
comes out of the East, whether it be the Rangers or the Panthers or the Lightning, they're going to be tired. Like look what Colorado
that's
took
true.
advantage. Colorado, they took advantage of a tired Tampa Bay team who had to play the Leafs. I can't remember who they else had to play.
Leafs.
They had to play Boston.
I think they played. Or no, not Boston. I don't think.
Who?
Like at Tampa, who they play against?
I'm not sure, but Florida even last year they were tired by the time Vegas got through. But Vegas' toughest series was the Oilers.
I think the West is better than the East.
It's gonna
Yeah.
be
Like
Yeah, me
look,
too.
just
I like the
kind of
West.
just looking at the teams, like the East is kind of like I'd honestly say besides Boston and Florida, I don't like the East.
we're in it's a very competitive age in hockey. Like it's gonna be a dogfight in the playoffs. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Like Tampa sucks. Toronto can kick rocks. Philly can get out of here. The Islanders are terrible. Like Pittsburgh is
Philly-
blech. The Devils can't get a guy to play. Like I like the West, man.
St. Louis Blues are taking it all, boys.
Uh,
I have a bet laid on them. Like I seriously
win?
think yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
man. Binnington just gets dialed in.
Honestly, their record since the coaching change has been pretty damn good too. Man.
Yeah.
Gets
Yeah.
nervous.
No, yeah.
I can't
'Cause
wait
it's-
to see you flying on your helicopter, Neville.
What?
I can't wait for you to see you flying on your helicopter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's not a
Why
big
would I-
bet. Don't worry. I'll make sure to bring you guys though.
I appreciate it.
All right.
To be
Oh,
fair, I did place a future on the Oilers winning the cup when they were 5-12-1.
Oh,
Did you?
Oh my gosh.
I did, yeah.
What did you put?
Wow.
I put like $10 on it, but I think
what are the odds on that?
plus 3,600.
So what's that? What's that? $360?
Yeah, and now they're at like plus 900 to win the cup,
Wow.
Yeah.
which is wild.
Yeah, that's
And
nice.
yeah, FanDuel just wants to cash. Can you cash out?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
I'm staying strong.
I like
Also,
Florida Dallas.
Yeah,
That's
Florida.
my-
Dallas is
that's
good.
my-
That'd be sick.
I have a quick question. The record for the longest bandwagon podcast, or has there been another that pushed an hour 10 minutes?
Oh, we've done.
Honestly, I can't
I
think
think
of another.
I think we were doing an hour and a half at one point.
Oh, are we?
I think so. Like early
Sometimes-
on when we would just ramble on and not be conscious of like how long
is
an
true.
episode is considered good. I think we have a couple that are an hour and a half.
Oh,
You just
gotcha.
watch the Sens game in the background and just be like,
Yeah.
and like just like
I'm a
talk.
live stream on YouTube.
No, it's funny. Like, we'll hop on a call with no plan. And
Dude.
we will just talk about 60, 65 minutes, no problem.
That's the way to go.
No, but this was awesome.
I got a question for the Ottawa hosts to round things off. You gave us our deadline kind of preview. Where the Sens are in the standings.
Oh, you asshole.
The season's in the shitter. So I might as well ask. Like, what's your hope for the deadline? Do you think that they go back and they trade Chychrun? I've seen some rumors.
No, I don't think they trade Chychrun, and if they do, I think it will be an off-season thing. What I really want to happen is the buyer's market to stay hot and somebody offer a first for Vladdy Tarasenko, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Other than that, like, fire Kubalik to the sun, but Like there's not much else you can really do with this roster right now other than like a major core piece.
What about Joseph?
Like,
I would trade him.
you would?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Third liner signed for like 3 more years or whatever at $3 million. Like that's not a guy that Ottawa needs right now. They can find that at a later date. Depending on the offer, like I would trade him.
I mean, unless you're getting like first for him, I'm not trading him. He's one of the better.
Well, I think you would get a first. Freaking Sean Monahan just got a first, and Matthew Joseph has term.
Yeah,
I think you would. I would trade Joseph for a first round pick in a heartbeat.
I think this team's looking for 2 or 3 more Josephs, so I wouldn't do that. But yeah, no, I think like sell off what you can. That's really short term moves, and then try to reevaluate. Like I think most Sens fans are pretty in agreement that if the core is going to be changed, it's going to be Shabbat or Norris. Like one of those two are probably the pieces to move. I just don't think that happens by the deadline.
So I got a question. I know I don't mean to keep you guys any longer.
No, dude, keep going. This is fun.
Danny Briere calls up Dorian and says, we need Giroux back for our playoff run. What's the ask?
Well, first of all, Dorian's on his couch at home, so that's not...
Oh, sorry. Yeah. But Danny, I don't even know who the GM is at this point.
That was so bitchy, Ryan.
Steve Staios is in charge now, baby.
Oh, I remember because I wanted Steve Staios to be Oilers' replacement, but then they sat on their ass and Ottawa took him from us. So
no, but that's a good.
Staios, he's a good guy. But yeah, if they call Staios, Giroux's the guy that they want. I don't know why Philadelphia wants to go on a playoff run, but Tort says we're not tanking. So what's the ask?
That's the thing. Like I don't. Right now, I don't know if Giroux wants to go anywhere. Like obviously, if he still wants to go like chase a cup, that's up to him. But I don't know if I would trade him, even if you get that big return. Mitch, like how do you feel about that? I'm kind of split on that. Like if he's willing to go and you have a great deal on the table,
I want that 2025 Flyers first round pick. I don't believe in this team at all. No, see, my thing is that this team is just so bad. Like they suck. And I am quite frankly under the impression that they need to, I think people generally in like Sens Twitter and whatever think that like this is the team and like next year we're gonna be just fine. I don't know. Like if you go get like Chris Tanev is a pipe dream, but I don't think he's gonna come to Ottawa. Like I want him bad, and I think there's a chance. I don't think it's a good chance, but I think there's
there's a chance in if he gets the UFA. I think there's a chance.
Yes.
They're not trading for him now.
Yeah, and that depends on what Toronto's outlook is. Like if Toronto has cap space, like that guy's a Leaf. But if Toronto doesn't have cap space and nobody on the West Coast can afford Chris Tanev, like I think maybe Ottawa has a chance at him. Yeah, like Vancouver's the other kicker there. But like, and Giroux probably has a full no move. But like again, like if I'm Steve Staios and Philadelphia calls and they're like, we'll give you a 2025 first round pick for Giroux, and probably a little more than that, I think, because Giroux has another year left too. Like I would do it. Because what are we doing? Like we're not doing anything this year. We might do something next year. I don't like.
I just think the
team's just not good enough, man. Like Tim, like God bless Tim Stützle. Like that's not the best player on like a decent playoff team yet. And like God bless Brady Tkachuk. He's not either. And God bless. Actually, no. Fuck Josh Norris. Like not God bless Josh Norris. Like. This team just isn't good yet, man, and they're all making so much money, and it just has to change. And
I just think their problem right now is that they have too many guys that cheat offensively, and like they don't have the guys that are dedicated to playing the 200-foot game. And right now they're in the evaluation stage of like, okay, who's willing to actually buy in and play this way? And if not, get out, essentially. So like. The two names that we've brought up here, Giroux and Joseph, like those are two I would not trade for that reason. Like these are the guys that play the way you're looking to find players to play. Like I think they want to take another run at it next year. Like I don't think they want to retool in any sort of way. So I wouldn't for that reason, but I can understand the perspective
If I
of
can give
why you
Ottawa
would take
fans
the deal
any
too.
sort of
So.
perspective, I'm going to give the 2018-19 Oilers, when they, again, Bob Nicholson, Toby Reaver scores 15 goals, we make the playoffs. No, like, that team had two players. Like it's frustrating, like, as an Oilers fan, hearing that the Oilers are two players. They're not anymore. They've got a team that surrounds McDavid and Draisaitl, which is super nice to say as an Oilers fan. But in 2018-19, it was two players. And I see the Sens as two or three players right now, but a lot better off than what the Oilers had. Like, the Oilers didn't have anyone defensively that we could trust. They had three players offensively that they're still on the team now in McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nuge, and they didn't have a goalie. And now it's crazy. So I would think that, like, I like Timmy Stu, I like Kachuk. Not a huge fan of the Norris contract, but I'm sure he plays it a little bit better. I love their defensive core. I don't know, like I don't know why that defensive core is so bad as it is, because on paper it's, in my opinion, one of the top 5 defensive cores in the league, just on paper. So I would, I don't want the Sens to completely sell off, and I don't think they should trade Giroux or Joseph either. I think those are the kinds of guys that you need. But flipping to Tarasenko because he's on as a rental for whatever you can get for him, shipping Kubelik for whatever you can get for him is super helpful. And then next year, buy into the system. I don't know if is Jacques Martin interim or
Yeah, he won't be back. They'll bring in somebody full time in the
they're going to
offseason.
bring in someone with a little bit more knowledge, like a Knobloch, a guy that I would not be surprised. Maybe Stales goes down the old Edmonton route and picks up a guy like Woodcroft. Woodcroft, I say this, and I'm going to say this again. Wherever Woodcroft signs as a coach next, I have a part-time fan. That guy is an NHL head coach. He is a really, really good, like, strong-minded head coach that ran into a lot of bad luck with the beginning of the season, and now he's fired. Right? He had the best winning percentage as an Oilers coach.
Tom Ellen's on the board now too. Another former Oilers coach, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and that's where Woodcroft got his start in McClellan's system. Right? He started in San Jose, and then when San Jose moved over or when McClellan moved over to Edmonton, that was one of the guys that he brought with Woodcroft, and then Woodcroft stayed in the minors in Bakersfield before, I think, who was it? Not Owen Tippett. Dave Tippett got the caboot, and he was brought in as an intern basis and won the hearts over of Oilers fans. So, the Sens are a couple pieces away, and it's really frustrating as a Sens fan, because as an Oilers fan, you're wondering, why is this team not good? Like, at the beginning of the season when we're 5-12-2 after losing second year in a row to the Stanley Cup champion. Like, why are we this bad, right? And it's just one little switch that could just trigger everything in Ottawa. And I don't want to touch the core. I think the core that they have is good. Is it great? No, but they're one or two pieces away from being great.
See, I wasn't advocating to go shop these guys, but I just think it'd be so ignorant to not take calls on guys that make $3 million or whatever, or have 1 year left after this one. Like, if someone calls on Chychrun, I'm accepting that phone call, right?
Yeah, of course. You're not doing your job.
But calling someone an untouchable is insane. Like, I think there's
For sure.
there's 3 untouchables on the roster.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, I don't know. It just, what a mess.
Stützle, Kachuk, and
Sanderson.
Oh, yeah, right. Sure.
Where do you put Batherson on that range?
Not
Batherson, no, definitely not untouchable, but
he's nasty though.
I put him above Norris because I think he has more offensive flair than Norris, and his contract's way better than Norris. So
he's also part of the problem, though, right, Ryan?
Yeah, he's one of those players who's not.
He gives it right back on the other end.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's one of the things that, like like again, Oilers fans can relate to this. Like McDavid and Draisaitl leading into this year, maybe like transitioned a little bit last year, did not play defense. They coasted in. They were offensive players. They wanted the big numbers. Like you look at their win streak right now, like McDavid and Draisaitl aren't putting up 5-point nights. They aren't. They're getting some of them aren't even like they're not even recording points. Like you look at Bouchard at the beginning of the season, like he was putting up massive points. Now he's regressed back down to the mean where he should be, and he's playing a more complete game. So I think the Sens are, if they're gonna shop Matthew Joseph, like it's gonna be a return like Blake Coleman, or what was the other guy that
Barclay Goodrow
acquired? Yeah, like a Barclay Goodrow, right? You're gonna get like a first plus, right? Like that's a guy with term that can play third line with a good contract that could help any team. And if I'm the Sens, I'm asking for a first plus, and that's just the going right for a guy with term on a good deal. With Tarasenko, get anything you can.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't think he's a first round pick caliber player.
I didn't think Monahan was either.
Yeah, like
That's kind of the thing.
I never would have said first round pick for Vladdy, but he's producing pretty much same rate he did when he got a first last year, and Monahan just got a first, so that's the only reason I float that out there.
If you find a team, if they find a team that is desperate for offense and like a good scoring winger, sure, he can fetch a first round pick, but he's not as a complete of a player as Sean Monahan.
Right. He's also a winger.
Yeah, he's also
which is less valuable. So
for sure.
Second round pick is probably what he'll get.
A boy can dream. All right, let's wrap. Hour 20. We're all tired. Mike Hoffman was part of the Erik Karlsson trade. Just want to put that out there. And so without further ado, I think Ryan can hit that outro. Thank you guys again so much for coming on. Sounds like everyone's making money moves in their sports careers, so we love to see that.
Go Blues, baby!
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.